Hello, my name is Kevin and welcome to the Love Decanters channel. So this is part 2 of my visit to Yoxford Antiques Centre in Suffolk. And yeah, as you'll have noticed in the first one, it's a big place, there's loads of stuff there. So I highly recommend it. And it's actually, if you're going to the Suffolk coast, it's kind of strategically placed. So Yoxford is on one of the main roads where you're probably going to have to come by it. So pull in and have a look, because yeah, it is a good place. You'll see there are some bits that, yeah, if I didn't have a space problem and money was no object, I'd have just bought piles more. There was lots of really nice things. So yeah, I recommend a trip. Or if you're going to Suffolk coast, go to Yoxford Antiques Centre. There are other places that I visited, but actually I think that was the best, as in there's a real mix of stuff. There's lots of old stuff and newer stuff, and there were a few bargains in there as well. So, and I bought some things. I'll do that in a separate video, because this was like a two-part holiday. We also went to the Peak District as well, opposite directions from where I am, and bought some stuff there. So I'll do that as a separate video at some point. But yeah, I highly recommend a trip to, if you're going that way, go to Yoxford Antiques Centre. Anyway, let's get on and have a look at the glass. So we've got a section here that's got quite a lot of glasses. They've got some nice, look at these, really nice custard glasses with pigtails. They've got just some sherries and things. This is quite nice. Wow. Look at that. Difficult to tell from this, but there's a lot of wear on there, so that's looking probably early Victorian. Sorry about the thing going off in the background. And then look at this lovely custard glass, jelly glass. This is probably from 1820s. Look, you've got step cutting. Never really seen that. And it's £14, so that's a really nice thing. Really unusual, rare one. So, yeah. I'm going to start by looking at the custard glass that was there. And yeah, so early 19th century custard glasses. References for those. Terrible. Can't find any. I even went into Scottish Antiques to see, and they had none. In fact, they didn't have any jelly glasses, full stop, but on my own website I have some. And what I do is I tend to look at the styles. Some I know, so like this one, I know this has got a piggy tail, but I know it's early 20th century. This is a throwback one, but these ones are like this. Yeah, these are late Victorian, Edwardian ones, but this is an early one here. So it's got a piggy tail. That one's got a piggy tail as well. And I'm going by the fact that they're petal molded to say they're early 19th century. And I've got this one here, which is panel cut. This is early 19th century as well. And if you make it big, this is what I'm talking about, where the end of the handle comes down and it does a little squiggle at the bottom. You can see it on like this one. The handle comes down, squiggles at the bottom. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about piggy tail. The cutting, the little blazes that there's little vertical cuts that go around. Those are very Regency, so I'm happy with that. I've not seen that exact pattern before, so yeah, it's unusual, and I think there was a bunch of them in there. So yeah, those, I could say if you collected custard glasses, you'd want those, but virtually nobody collects these things. I think that would be a good thing to collect, because there's so many different types, and also quite often they're really cheap, really cheap, because demand is driven by people. Value is driven by demand, and there is almost none, unless so like this is a Thomas Webb one. Yeah, someone will want it because it's Thomas Webb, and if they're trying to create the fur cone service, then yeah, get that one. But There's nobody specific, and this one is a Whitefriars one. So yeah, it's a Whitefriars one. So Whitefriars collector would want it, but these ones down here, these early 19th century ones, which are, you know, 150 to 200 years old, nobody's very interested. So that's where we are with that. It is a good custard glass, but not very collectible. I've put in here that I think I bought this one for £4, so that gives you an idea. Next I'm going to talk about the jelly glass with the panel cutting and the step cutting. Now I said it was really unusual, so I've come to Scottish Antiques to try and find it, to see if, yeah, because there's no really good books, and yeah, so there's 95. The search result says there's 95 different. So we're looking for step cutting and panel cutting together. And as you scroll through, this one's got multi, little scallop edges, but no, that's not the same kind of cutting. And you just go through and through and through, and there's absolutely none that are cut like that. What that one was. So yeah, so when I said it's an unusual one, it's a very unusual one. Got a couple here with panel cutting, but step cutting. Nope, 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 nope. There is none. So, but it does tell you how much variety there is in this type of glass, because they've made for quite a while, and literally every fashion that there was hit it. So we're talking about fashion now. We're talking about a mixture of step cutting and panel cutting. Okay, so I thought, let's go to another good dealer and have a look. And obviously I'll go and have a look at the decanters. Okay, so I picked Fileman. They're really good, and they have 2 decanters with step cutting. So this is step cutting, look at all that, and panel cuttings. Okay, 1820 they've got on that one. And then we've got this one here, step cutting and panel cutting. So this is like closer in proportion to what we were looking at, where we've got a bit of panel cutting, a bit of step cutting, and a bit of panel cutting. 1820 again. So that gives you a time period for when that type of cutting was in vogue. And really the way this decanter is cut, in fact, I think it's got, I'm looking at the 2 pictures, I think it's got the same number of step cuts in it. And then you've got that mix with the panel cutting. This could almost be the same service. So 1820 is a date. Step cutting wasn't around for a long time because it was expensive to do. It was done because they could do it. The steam-powered cutting had come in, and it was possible, but it's very labour intensive. So that jelly glass would have been expensive when it was new, just like this decanter would have been, and it then fell out of fashion because, yeah, difficult to do. Just below the custard glass is also this lovely little cruet, £25. So this is an early 19th century one as well. What's the little trick with it is, look at this. Can you see that? That's for cayenne pepper. Yeah, you want a bit of hot spice in your food. Small amounts is the answer. So yeah, that is a really nice, rarish cruet. Quite often you might see them with the top on, but then you see the stopper just tapers out because the little spoon's gone. It's fallen off or whatever, but yeah, no, that is very nice because it's so complete. So I'm back using my own website again, and there is a reason for that. So I don't have any cayenne pepper bottles, none, but I have a section on cruets. Let me show you something. So if you go in the bottles in here, keep going. Yeah, so this is a similar kind of cutting and stopper. This is, well, as well. I've got 1820-30, 1820-30. I think I've got another one down here somewhere. This one here is a bit like it, 1820-30. So you can see where I'm going with this, yeah. So, but I have something that's gives you something else. So if I go, where does that take me? Yep. And then I go to mustard pots. Okay, so these have got silver tops. And if I scroll down, I have this one here. Now, it doesn't have, what doesn't it have? It doesn't have the date mark on the silver top. Okay, it has Sheffield, and it has the king on it, and it's George the Fourth. So there's no date mark, but the silver is hallmark for Sheffield 1814 to 27, which this is the same kind of cutting. So, you know, you've got a bit of step, you've got a bit of hobnail, you've got a bit of vertical striping, all of this kind of all wedged together in bands. Yeah, that's the period it's from. So that helps you date that other bottle, which doesn't have any hallmarks on, but it is quite a rare bottle. And I did actually try to find some, and I'll give you an idea why. Ooh, I was quite impressed because this one, this is much later, is quite fancy. It's got a solid silver thing, so this changes it completely. Okay, value wise, £207.68. What the hell? Anyway, we've got a couple more. Got this one here, 119. Yeah, hallmark, this is silver again, but we've got this one here, which is probably closer to the period that we were looking at. It's not hallmarked, but oh, it does say it's hallmarked. Does it have a year? That's not right. Anyway, so this is an early 19th century one. It's got a little similar kind of thing, and he's got £82.76 on it. So that gives you an idea of the value of them. The spoons are tiny. It's for cayenne pepper, which, you know, English tastes then were for really hot things, so you wouldn't be putting a lot on. You know, I have to admit, I pretty much buy my chili sauce by the half pint and put it on like it's ketchup, but that would have been quite spicy for them just to have a little, not even a thimble, like a little couple of pinches out of one of these bottles. Got a bunch of decanters here. Yeah, they're a real mixed bunch. We've got a Nelson type, but it's small. The stopper's not right, but this one here, this is a lovely bludgeon. Look how good. There's no bloom in it. It's a monster. The stopper looks to be original. So this is sort of like 1845 to 65. What have I got? 65 on it, yeah, so that's... But it is a very nice 150-year-old plus usable decanter. In the video there, you could clearly see there were 4 types of decanter that, well, there was a pair of shaft and globe decanters, there was a Nelson type with the wrong stopper, there were 2 bludgeon type decanters, but one of those had the wrong stopper. And I thought, you know, I collect decanters, I just thought I'd give you my insight onto how I see them and what's going on. I thought I'd use my website because, yeah, I have some of those decanters. So let's drop in. I'm going to drop into the section called decanters. And yeah, let's do the Nelson one first. This is actually a Nelson type. And here it is. This one I've got 1830 to 40. That one might have been a little bit later, but yeah, but you notice mushroom shaped stopper. All of these are pretty much, some of them a bit more rounded than others, but they're all got mushroom style stoppers. Very occasionally you might see one of these royal ones, these cylinder decanters with a spire. but not very often. The Nelsons are usually fairly simple and have a mushroom. So have a closer look at it. This is the basic floor plan of a Nelson type. You've got the cylinder body with a sharp shoulder like this, single big ring, neck. But the one we were looking at had a pointed stopper, so yeah, that's not an original stopper for it. But it was a very clean looking little decanter, but it was only a 1 pinter as well, I think, which really knocks the value, because it's better if it's a full size one, even if it has got the wrong stopper, because you can use it, you know, put it on your table with a glass of bottle of wine in it and just use it, even if it's got the wrong stopper. But yeah, that hurts it. So there were a pair of shaft and globe decanters. This is from the Victoria. They look like they had the original stopper. It was between this one and this one, so they had, if you look, this is like a very cheap cut, about the cheapest cut shaft and globe, where you've just got like a row of little printies here, can you see, and then that above, and the stopper is just not very well done. So this is about as cheap as you get for that type of stopper. And then at the other end of the scale you have this, which has got like loads of printies, scale cut neck all the way, the whole surface is just cut all over. So this is at the other end of the scale, and the one the pair that we were looking at were between them, and they were decent. They looked very clean. They looked like they both had the original stoppers, and they looked like they could take a bottle of wine. So the problem with these ones, they're very difficult to clean. So if you use them, you need to get them cleaned out quite quickly, and then they're very difficult to dry, in which case you have to go and have a look at my video on using your decanters, so for tricks on how to dry them out. So yeah, they have their problems, but they look good on the table, I think, and they look very period, very Victorian. So the other two decanters that we saw, go back, were bludgeon decanters. So one of them was like this, yeah, but it had the wrong stopper. This is the stopper that should go with this. Occasionally you'll get one that's like a flat piece here, like a little blown mushroom, but then with a big spire coming out the top of it. It didn't really go with, this is the normal look for these, and yeah, so that didn't look to be the original stopper. The only problem is the other one, sort of like, you get, this is like one of the sort of like random shape bludgeons, and so is this one. This is like fairly, these two here are fairly standard, and then these ones are a bit more random again. So a lot of them are just really random, and they're called bludgeon because they started being made after the tax on glass was taken off in 1845, and then they were kind of like popular for a while because, hey, glass suddenly became cheap and you could make very heavy decanters and it would cost the same as making a lightweight one. It was just a thing because, oh wow, we can just use as much glass as we like comparatively. So, and they just went, the shapes just went all over the place. So you've got stuff like this and stuff like this. Some of them have a bit of sort of like the leftovers from Georgian rings on them. Some of them don't, but they're usually really chunky decanters, and it fits into that type of period. So the dates I'm putting on these are sort of like 1840s, 60s. Really, the real start date is 1845 because that is when the tax on glass by weight, which was 300%, came off. So glass was suddenly, the material was worth a quarter of what it was pre 1845. We've got some really nice bits of glass in here. Not so much this, but this. They've got Regency £42. I think they're right. Look at the lovely cutting. Little, where the knop is very of that period. And yeah, and then look at the base. Look at the quality of that. That is really good.
really good. And also, let me put that down there. We got this. I think this is a sugar bowl, but it's a really hefty one. Same kind of period, 1820s, 30s or something like that. And look at the cutting in the foot. So it's got cartwheel cutting, which was in fashion at that time, but they've actually cut into the edges of it. Can you see? And then you've got this pattern here. This is really nice. And then the other thing, I'm not going to pull that out. That's a copy, but this is not. It's a bit dusty, but look at that. That's a really lovely. This is Anglo-Irish, probably about 1810 or something like that. Look at the wear on the base. Look at that. That is a hefty piece, and it's a really nice serving bowl of some kind. But yeah, no, that is. What have they got on it? £48. Yeah, but that's over 200 years old. So yes.
So there was three things I was looking at there. But I'm going to start with the little lidded pot. Then I'm going to go to the servings bowl, and then I'm going to come back to the sugar bowl. But start with the lidded pot. This is a page from the book Irish Glass by Phelps Warren. And yeah, this is as close as I can get. If you just lop this stem off and the foot, there you go. There it is. He's saying circa 1800, courtesy of the National Museum of Ireland. Now, I don't know if mine is Irish or not, or the one I was looking at was Irish or not, but yeah, this gives a nice date for it. Feels a bit early for this much cutting, especially in Ireland as well, because they were only just starting steam cutting at that point. I think they finished by converting all of the glass houses to steam by 1809. But anyway, yeah, I think that's, at least you're saying it's very early 19th century. Yeah, it's a good date for that kind of sort of like all over hobnail cut bowl. Sticking with Irish Glass by Phelps Warren, there's several oval serving bowls in this book. This is the one that's closest in that it's got these cut fans on the rim and then a hobnail underneath. The hobnail's a bit smaller, and the cutting on the base is a bit tighter than it is on that one. But I think this is the kind of thing, I would count this as an Anglo-Irish bowl, the one that was there. I can't guarantee it's Irish, but it kind of like has the look and feel of several of the bowls there. This is the closest one. This little fan feature is, you see it in a lot of Irish glass. And yeah, so I think that's where I would be going with that. Early 19th century is so vague. But I think you're really talking in that sort of 1810 to 1840 period, probably. But anyway, that's the period it's from. I'm pretty happy that it's that, and it's actually in good nick, because a lot of them are, it has a few little nicks around the top, and I expect to see that, but this one was actually fairly decent, not too many nicks and no really big ones. So there's no proper reference that I know of that gives you a load of these bowls. Now they're the kind of bowls that go in the middle of a tea caddy. You can see one here and here. In fact, there's a few tea caddies here. Look, there's one there. It's one of those bowls. Now, historically, I've been led to believe they are tea mixing, but I've been told more recently, no, they're sugar bowls. Someone's written a book about tea caddies, and they've confirmed period writings about these bowls are that they are sugar bowls. Okay, so go with that. And it's kind of, this is a bit earlier, I think. There's one I thought I saw here. I think this one here is probably a similar period one. And there was another one. Where's a really nice one? This one maybe. I think this is a similar period. Actually, I picked them out, didn't I? This one here looks very similar. And what's the date on? He's got 1830 on it. And this one here, similar as well. And the date they've got on that is 1800. I think that's a bit early. In fact, I think it's quite early for that. I will go with the 1820s, 30s, especially this bit here. Can you see this piece here that they're showing you? That is like pillar cutting. That's really an 1820s, 30 feature. So yeah, but it's a similar kind of thing with this serrated edge around, or little small scallops, depending on how you look at this. One's got a similar, this one's got a serrated edge, but the ones with those edges seem to be around this period. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. There's no prices here because, oh no, £18. £18 plus post, so it's £30. And what was this one? This one's got a price as well. No, must be sold. Anyway, that's what I've got.
So I hope you enjoyed that. Yes, the little square decanter, the Hill Euston one, I didn't know what that was until recently. I have one somewhere in the shed, I think, and I've had it for ages. And I had the other decanter that was there, so that's in the shed. I know where those are, but I've never known what they were until I found that Corning Glass Museum online library and started ploughing through stuff, and there they are, they appeared. That's always fantastic when that happens. You find new references, and then you find stuff that you think that you previously bought and now can identify. Such a good feeling. Anyway, as I said previously, recommend a visit to Yoxford Antiques Centre if you're going that way, and all the contact details for Yoxford Antiques Centre will be in the description below. All the references I use will be in the description below, and please remember to like and subscribe, because I will be back. And thank you for watching, and have a good night. Good night.